Retire the colors.
Colors. Colors turn. March. Hi. 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 Hi.
Please remain standing for the invocation.
Let us join our hearts in the spirit of prayer. Almighty God, I thank you for the opportunity we have this afternoon to gather in solemn remembrance and to give honor to whom honor is due. You alone see all the thoughts and intentions of our hearts, and you know that we bring many emotions with us today. We feel gratitude, Lord, and on behalf of those gathered, I thank you for the millions of U.S. service members who wore our nation's uniform during the Korean War era. Some with us today. Many more cannot be with us here, but all are with us in spirit. Whether they deployed into combat, supported the effort from U.S. garrisons, or served elsewhere in the world, they represent those who answered the call of their nation. And we thank you for their willingness to serve and sacrifice, for their families, and for the strength you've given them through it all. We also feel the weight of our sorrow today. Just a short distance from us stands a wall containing over 36,000 names. This Memorial Day, we honor the ultimate sacrifice made by each one, U.S. troops and South Korean augmentees, and also their loved ones who shared in this sacrifice, and many continue to grieve. We also remember and honor those missing and unaccounted for as a result of their service. Would you continue, O God, to bind up the brokenhearted and comfort those who mourn? Finally, Lord, we gather with the unmistakable sense of hope. In Korea and beyond, for a quarter of a millennium, our nation's service members have selflessly advanced noble causes for a hopeful future. As the song reminds us, our veterans represent those who more than self their country loved and mercy more than life. May we as a nation continue to live in light of this hope as we place our trust in you. I ask your blessings now on this ceremony in your holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Chaplain. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our host, General John Tillelly, U.S. Army retired, the chairman of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation. Sir.
First, I want to thank the Joint Service Color Guard and the band for being here today and doing what they do so well for us. Veterans, Gold Star family members, Dr. Grace, our superintendent, our partner in this great memorial with the National Park Service, General Yoon, Mr. Lee, distinguished guests, welcome and thanks for being here. This is an important occasion because today is Memorial Day, a different day than many of the other celebrations and commemorations we do. We're here to remember and reflect on the true meaning of this day. It's to honor the men and women who gave their lives for democracy, for America, and for those who desired to live in freedom. As on our wall of remembrance, as the chaplain said, there are 36,634 men who gave their lives. But they're not just names carved in granite. And I think that's the most important thing that we remember. They were sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters who knew the risks of wearing the uniform of the United States when they took their oath of service to this country. Their sacrifice should always remind us that is carved on this memorial that freedom is not free. That freedom is, there's a cost to be paid. And that cost is courage and oftentimes lives. When you think about it and put it in the context of today, can you ever imagine in 36 months losing 36,634 Americans in combat. And what a heavy toll that would be. So as we think of their souls, I also ask you to think of their families. The hole that was left in the family. When they send their sons, daughters, family members off to war. They paid the ultimate price as they think about those that were lost and will never return. So in that context, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for taking your time, because this is a day of commemoration, not celebration and picnics. It's a day when we remember those that were lost. And we always say we will never forget. But every day we think about those who suffer and who were lost in combat for America. We should never forget. And we should never forget for the right reasons. And a simple prayer or thought of them every day will keep them alive and keep their souls alive, and they will never be forgotten. I also want to thank the active duty service members who are here today, because they in fact know the risks that they take wearing the nation's cloth. So thanks for being here. It's a great honor for me to be chairman of the foundation, and in my view, and I know I'm very parochial in this, and the board members who contributed this, in my view, this is the best memorial on them all. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome the leader of our distinguished partner and stewardship of this memorial, Dr. Kevin Grease. He's the superintendent of the National Mall and Memorial Parks. He brings over 25 years of public service and a deep and powerful personal commitment to this sacred place. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Grease.
Thank you, everyone. I'm very honored to be a member of the National Park Service and represent them today because, as General Tula said, the names represent people. I think it's fantastic that on memorial there are names so that the names can be spoken and seen and never forgotten. In the National Park Service, we are here to ensure that this memorial stands forever. And I'm a little parochial with General Tula a little bit. Don't be too loud about this, but this is my favorite too. Just to let you know. And I want to tell you, the reason why is I have a little connection to this, a special connection to this memorial. I served in Korea for 15 years, on and off for 15 years. I did not serve in combat. As a young E3 military canine handler, I used to stand a post, middle of the night, minus temperatures that DC thankfully doesn't have, minus 20, minus 30 in the wind, on Hill 180, if you've ever heard of that. Hill 180, where Captain Louis Millett in 1951 led the last bayonet charge of the United States Army as he overtook a hill that was key terrain, and he did it by force, by determination, by courage. He won that night. There's a rock, a monument to him on top of that hill. I have sat on that rock, not out of disrespect to him, because I was cold. And I thought, as I heard the echo of taps every night across the valley, because we played it every night in remembrance, on what it meant to be a veteran or a soldier that was in that hill in a foxhole, dug down, far away from home. I learned through that experience what everyone before me gave, what I was prepared to give at that time, and we should always remember. I've listened to that taps in that location hundreds and hundreds of times. My second connection is a little bit different. I want to share with you just so you understand the impact of the Korean War, much more than our veterans, but for whom the veterans died. I'm married to a wonderful Korean woman whose parents fled on foot from North Korea to South Korea, left their family, their ancestral family behind in search of freedom, the freedom that our veterans had fought to establish, that our veterans secured in South Korea. I met and knew her parents. I spoke to them about their journey, their fears, why they came, what freedom meant to them. It's more than just a word. It's because of them that I have a wife who has freedom, and sometimes she exercises that quite a bit with me. So I do thank you very much for that. But I'm honored to represent the National Park Service here today because Memorial Day to us is an everyday thing. We take care of this with great pride every day. This National Mall is visited by over 36 million people every year. And this memorial is visited by over 7 million people a year. It is not forgotten. Dedicated in 1995 and rededicated in 2022 is the wall with the wall remembrance, the names. When you go out here today, see the names, speak some names, make sure they're not forgotten. It honors 36,000, as we talked about. 19 stainless steel statues represent all military branches walking through symbolically rice paddies. Rice paddies I've walked through, but again, not in combat. But I understand the sacrifices. Etched through the mural wall are the faces of those who have served. Again, I am thankful to be part of the National Park Service, whose core mission is to ensure that this is a forever memorial. They will always be taken care of, regardless of who the superintendent is or anybody else. This is our mission, and we will do it. Our staff and volunteers preserve not just this physical space, but its meaning, its education, its translation. For those that come here, many people internationally come here to understand the value of freedom and what the cost of that freedom and whether it was worth it. It was worth it. I can think of no other country, no other example where United States intervention helped a country become free. And that country, if you've served there since then, has not forgotten. They do not forget. And they will always be our partners. Kachi Kapshita. Always be our partners. Deep thanks to the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, the Embassy of Korea, all veterans organizations, all those of you that have served and are here today, and of course, the families of the fallen that are no longer with us. I close with the same words, which is etched here for a reason. Freedom is not free. It costs. And the freedom of South Korea was paid with Korean and American blood. We cannot forget. May we never forget the cost of our freedom in the past or in the future. And may we live each day in a way that honors them, that earns their respect from those who paid the full price. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Reason. I'd like to just let everyone know that we had a whole platoon from the Korea Veterans Association come and join us. Let's give them a welcome, a round of applause. Thank you for joining us. So Memorial Day is not just about those who served, as we talked about here today, but also those who remember, all of us. It is a day to recognize the enduring bonds of love, loss, and legacy carried by the families and friends of the fallen veterans. Long after the last battle is fought, long after the uniform is last folded, it is the voices of families and veterans who keep the memory of service alive. Their stories remind us that the sacrifices made in war are not confined to the battlefield. They echo through generations. By sharing their reflections, family members breathe life into history. They ensure that the names etched in stone are not just letters, but real people, fathers, brothers, grandfathers, uncles, friends, and mentors who gave everything for their country. To honor this legacy, ladies and gentlemen, it is our privilege today to hear from a family member of 3 Korean War veterans, his father, uncle, and grandfather. It is my honor to introduce Colonel Richard Dean, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers retired and Vice Chairman of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Rick.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Generals Jolly, Champeau, and Foundation board members. General Yoon, sending countries' ambassadors and attaches, Dr. Grice, friends, Korean augmentees to the U.S. Army, also known as KATUSAs, family members of the Korean War, and Korean War veterans. Today we're here to honor and pay tribute to the men and women who served in the Korean War nearly 75 years ago. I, too, am a little biased that I think this is the best memorial on the National Mall. I've got a little bit of privilege with that. Off to my right is the Wall of Remembrance, listing 36,634 veterans from all 4 branches of the military and 7,174 KATUSAs who made the ultimate sacrifice to preserve freedom and stop the spread of communism. As mentioned, I had 3 family members who served on the Korean Peninsula, and behind me is my hollow ground of remembrance. My father, Navy Commander Richard Dean, served as a gunnery officer on a destroyer, the USS Porter, and later served on the staff of the 7th Fleet for a total of 2.5 years. I have fond memories of his stories trying to hit trains coming out of mountain tunnels along the shore at night. As a youngster, I always thought, it must be a piece of cake to hit a train, one of these trains. But after taking a few engineering classes in college, I got a better appreciation of 2 moving forces, one in a 3-dimensional scenario in the dark and no lights. Not an easy task. My dad always wanted to give praise to the servicemen who were on the peninsula and were much more exposed to the elements than he was. My maternal uncle, U.S. Army Lieutenant John R. Lovell II, arrived on the peninsula at the end of the war and served as an ordnance platoon officer along the DMZ for a year. He later served in Vietnam as a battalion commander and retired as a lieutenant colonel. Unfortunately, his exposure to Agent Orange took his life way too early and left my aunt raising 5 kids. The oldest were twins entering their junior year of high school. Third, my maternal grandfather, Colonel John R. Lovell, was born and raised in Ottumwa, Iowa. He even wore the same style of glasses as Radar on the sitcom MASH. Growing up, there was a void in my life, and it was always missing. I never had the opportunity to interact with him or for him to participate in any key events as I was growing up. All I remember back then was seeing his DD Form 214, listing him as missing at sea. My grandmother, known as Mama San, lived for another 50 years without ever knowing the whereabouts of her husband and his final disposition. She was left with raising and providing for 3 kids, all of whom were in college, including my mom, who was just starting her freshman year in college. Colonel Lovell graduated from West Point in 1927 in the branch of Coast Artillery, where he was stationed at Fort Shafter, Hawaii, Fort Monroe, Virginia, and Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, before being sent overseas to Germany in the late 1930s. An interesting fact, he was the coach of the U.S. boxing team when they participated in the 1936 Olympics. Who would have figured? The entire family was stationed in Germany during the early part of World War II, and my grandmother, as head of household, was tasked with getting the kids out of Europe. It took her over 6 months of travels between Denmark, France, and Italy to finally get on a ship to sail back to the States in late 1940. She is a Wonder Woman with holding a clan of young kids traveling all over Europe in a war-torn environment, dealing with lodging, feeding, traveling, challenges, language barriers, and the like, while my grandfather was serving as a defense attaché in Berlin. Then, December 7th, 1941, war was declared, and despite his diplomatic immunity status, he and 60 members of the embassy staff were detained for over 9 months. His diary was very interesting to read. They were detained in a hotel during this period of time with no heat, lots of challenges of obtaining food rations for the entire group, dealing with medical issues, and trying to communicate back to Washington for travel arrangements. Then last year I found out that he was also responsible for rescuing the Romanian royal family from behind the enemy lines in 1943 and 44. Obviously, he served a good portion of World War II with the OSS in intelligence operations with General Donovan. Then in 1948, he was assigned as the defense attaché in Romania and was caught spying, where he was persona non grata and had 24 hours to leave Romania. Shortly thereafter, he was transferred from the U.S. Army to the U.S. Air Force while it was just getting established. By the time 1950 rolled around, my grandfather was assigned to the headquarters U.S. Air Force Intelligence Directorate in the late 1950, when he was sent on a classified mission to Yokota Air Force Base, Japan, with the intent of locating nuclear assets along the Chinese border. He was able to obtain an RB-45C jet bomber, had all the ordnance capabilities removed, and installed the latest and greatest of aerial photography equipment, where the crew proceeded to the Delta region of the Yalu River near Sunuji, China. His plane was jumped by 5 Russian MiGs, and his plane was shot down. He was able to parachute out of the jet bomber and was captured by the Chinese armed forces. He was handed over to the Soviets, KGB, and interrogated for a 10-day period. He was then turned over to the North Korean army, where he was stoned to death shortly thereafter in a small town near the border. On the wall of remembrance are listed 8,177 servicemen who were declared dead in July 1954, 1 year after the armistice, and their remains have never been brought home. There are no grave markers indicating where their remains rest for family members to grieve, have a sense of closure, and honor their fallen. Almost 3 years ago, the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation completed a decade-long mission of designing and erecting the Wall of Remembrance. The day before the rededication ceremony, they held a private ceremony where the family members of the fallen could have the opportunity to pay their respects to their loved ones. This is truly a memorable event for my family to honor our grandfather's service. In closing, I want to understand that 1 in 5 names listed on the Wall of Remembrance is still missing in action. Let me say that again. 1 in 5 is still missing in action, and they're waiting for their closure. Please bring them home. Kamsahamnida.
So thank you very much, Colonel Dean and your family. Before our wreath-laying ceremony, we would like to thank our corporate sponsors for their great example and support for the Korean War Veterans Memorial. Ghost Robotics, Han Financial Group, Kumo Petrochemical, Pumsan, Samsung, Shinan Financial Group, and SK Holdings. Let's give them a round of applause, please. So the tradition of placing wreaths at memorials is a universal expression of reflection and reverence, and is an enduring emblem of remembrance, honor, and respect. When we lay a wreath, we are not paying only tribute to those who served. We are offering a silent promise that their sacrifices will never be forgotten, and that their legacy lives on in our hearts and our actions. At this time, the wreath presenters will take their positions in front of their wreaths. At this time, go ahead, please do so. We are thankful to have the following wreath presenters from your right to left: Paralyzed Veterans of America, Korea Defense Veterans Association, Military Order of the Purple Heart, Korea Veterans Association, Korean War Veterans Association, U.S. National Park Service, the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, Republic of Korea Embassy, OCS Alumni Association, U.S. Korea Alliance Foundation, and the Korean American Women's Association. So ladies and gentlemen, when I say present the wreaths, each presenter will step to their wreath. At the start of taps, the audience will stand and everyone can salute or place your hands over your hearts. Present the wreaths. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and render appropriate honors for the playing of taps. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. So I would like to thank the foundation staff and our volunteers for putting this ceremony together. So Mr. Ralph Walton, the foundation's event coordinator, Katrina Walton, Ralph's wife, Jan Van Zutphen, the Grateful Tigers volunteers, Amy Fisher, and Mr. Nathan Walton, the foundation's executive assistant. So let's give them a round of applause, please. So we have gathered today to honor the 36,634 we lost during the Korean War. Let us also remember the 1.8 million Korean War veterans who returned home. And over the past 7 decades, most of them have also passed away. At the Korean War Veterans Memorial, they are always remembered and honored. And ladies and gentlemen, I know that, I don't know if you heard, but a very important Korean War veteran passed away earlier this morning, Congressman Charles Rangel. He was a huge supporter of the Korean War Veterans Memorial, as well as the foundation, to try to keep this memorial in this pristine condition. He was from the state of New York, was a Bronze Star and Purple Heart recipient, so we ask that you please keep all of Congressman Rangel's family in your prayers. Please allow me to conclude with these moving words from Miss Sharon Ekstrom and Miss Janice Sheridan, the daughters of Korean War veteran Staff Sergeant Robert Ekstrom, U.S. Marine Corps, who passed away in 2020. Children never view a parent clearly. It took a while for me to understand that my dad was unique. He was a U.S. Marine. Not just a Marine, but part of the 1st Division. He wasn't just a veteran, but a Korean War combat vet. Not just a Korean combat vet, but one of the chosen few who fought in the Forgotten War. A war he wished he could forget, but couldn't. Dad gave much and took little. He would never say that he regretted his service. He felt honored to have participated in protecting the freedom of South Korea. So please keep Staff Sergeant Ekstrom, Congressman Rangel, the Dean family, and all Korean War veterans in your thoughts and prayers this Memorial Day, and as General Tillelly said, throughout the year. Thank you very much for attending, and we welcome you. Please stay and visit, and if you would like to, please play. In your thoughts and prayers this Memorial Day, and as General Tillelly said, throughout the year. Thank you very much for attending, and we welcome you to please stay and visit. And if you would like to,